consultant solicitor at LawBite. My main areas of expertise are corporate and commercial law. In this video, I'll be talking about how to sell your business and the things to watch out for. One of the first things that you'll need to consider is whether you're selling the assets or shares in your business. If you are a limited company, then you'll need to look at whether you're going to sell your shares or whether you're going to sell your assets. If you sell the shares in your limited company, then the sale proceeds will be payable to you personally as the shareholder, and you will no longer own the company after the sale. If you sell the assets in your business held by your limited company, then the sale proceeds will be payable to the company, and you will still own the company after the sale. It is advisable to get legal advice at the start to decide on the best way to structure the sale from a legal perspective. There are several pros and cons of an asset sale. The pros are that the buyer and seller are able to choose which assets and/or liabilities are to be sold or purchased. Shareholder consent may not be required for the sale, depending on the company's Articles of Association or Shareholders Agreement. The board may be able to approve the sale by itself. Another pro is that the financial promotion rules under the Financial Services and Markets Act won't apply. The cons are that you might need more complicated documentation to sell the assets, there might be a TUPE transfer, and employee consultation may be required, and the seller will be left with a limited company with liabilities, and it will potentially need to wind this company up. In addition, the seller will have not directly received the sale proceeds, they will have been paid into the company. The seller may need to pay a dividend to receive the sale proceeds, and the dividend may be subject to tax. There are several pros and cons in selling the shares in a company. The pros for the seller is that when the shares are sold, the whole company, including all of its assets and liabilities, will have been sold. The sale price will have been directly paid to the seller, and TUPE is not likely to apply, so no employee consultations will be required. A share sale is a clean break for the seller. As the buyer will acquire the whole company, including all the assets and liabilities, the buyer must take care in negotiating the transaction documents, and a thorough due diligence exercise must take place. You will need to decide on the price that is payable for your business or shares. This will involve obtaining a valuation. There are a number of ways to value a business or shares. Your accountants or a specialist business valuation expert will be able to assist you in valuing your business. As lawyers, we cannot provide you with valuation advice, but we can refer you to suitable third parties if required. Tax is very likely to be payable on the sale of your business or shares. If you are selling the shares in your business, then the buyer will have to pay stamp duty on the value of the shares. You may have to pay capital gains tax as well as other taxes. There may be tax reliefs obtainable, and it's important to get tax advice at the outset so you structure the sale of your business or shares in the most tax efficient way for you. It's important to note that the best tax structure for you as a seller may be different to the best tax structure for the buyer, and there may be some negotiations around the structure to benefit both parties. You will need to take tax advice from your accountants or a tax specialist on the best way to structure the sale from the outset. It's important to agree heads of terms with the buyer in the event of the sale of a business or shares. The heads of term will set out things like the price, how the purchase is being funded, the assets or shares that are being sold, the liabilities being taken on, timescales for the purchase, what warranties and indemnities might be given, and whether any directors or shareholders will be required to work for the business after the sale. Agreeing heads of terms at the start can save a lot of time and money down the line. If you don't agree on the key principles at the start, the deal could potentially unfold at a later date. If the parties can't agree on key principles later on, you will have incurred costs and expenses on lawyers, accountants and other advisors, and these costs will not be recoverable. It's a really good idea to plan ahead if you're going to sell. You can take tax and legal advice early on to decide on the best way to structure the sale. You can carry out your own internal legal and financial due diligence process. For example, you can make sure all your filings are up to date at Companies House. You can make sure all your tax payments are up to date. You should go through all your contracts and make sure you have all your contracts signed. This could be with suppliers, customers and employees. You can make sure that you're up to date with all your payments. Make sure you've paid your suppliers, lenders, banks. You can have a look online at your business reviews. Do you have good ratings? And you can check that all your intellectual property is owned and that you have registered trademarks and you have patents in place where required. You want your business to be in the best shape possible to get a good valuation and attract buyers. There is no real timeline for the sale of a business. It could take anywhere between 12 weeks or even up to a year. This will depend on whether you are selling your shares or an asset, whether you have to market the business for sale. There may be some tax structuring work required before you can sell. The buyer may be required to obtain finance, which can take time to sort out. Issues could come up in the due diligence process that need to be resolved before the sale can take place. And in some sales, consents may be required, for example from banks, lenders, shareholders and landlords. All of these factors will have an impact on the sale process and how long the sale will take. It's a very good idea to take legal advice early on when you're selling a business. This way you can make sure that you've structured the sale correctly, you can understand what issues are likely to affect the sale and the timescales. You may need to appoint a team of advisors, including lawyers, accountants, tax advisors, valuers and agents. LawBite has experienced corporate lawyers who can help guide you through the sale process. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and I hope you have found it helpful.